It's that time of the week again. It's Friday, same time, same place. It's 8:30, Friday, the 3rd of July, and it's the 15th edition of the LA Cinema Quiz. So, rolling sound and action. Good evening, everyone. Hope you're well. And as I just said, welcome to the 15th edition of the LA Cinema Quiz. Hope you're all well. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for taking part. We've got the live chat window, as we always do, for subscribers and anyone taking part this evening. If you're logged on, give us a shout out and we'll see who's participating in tonight's quiz. Maybe you're a regular that tune in most Fridays or every Friday during the lockdown, or maybe you're new to the LA Cinema Film Quiz. So, yeah, introduce yourselves. Hope you've had a good week. I just can't believe that this is the 15th week that we've done the quiz in succession. It's ran by LA Cinema. My name's James. We're based in Long Ashton, as you probably know by now, on the outskirts of Bristol in the county of Somerset. And we normally run film screenings every third Saturday of the month. We try to mix up the program between Hollywood commercial films, indie cinema, European titles, and we're hoping, fingers crossed, to relaunch the cinema in September again. So looking forward to that, running our regular cinema screenings for the village of Long Ashton. So yeah, a couple of participants that have logged in. Good evening all, thanks for coming back, really appreciate it. We got Andy Rolls, Team Rouse is back in town. Thanks again. Rob Delaney back, I think for the third week, thank you. Shirley Cormish, again, thank you. Gail Rogers saying hello from Gail and Co. in Southville and Bedminster in Bristol. Please say happy birthday to Alex. Many happy returns. Can I ask your age or am I not allowed to? Evening James from the big cinema buff himself. That's Mr. Baseheart. Kieran Nicholson back again. Kieran Ray saying evening. And Team Rouse from Telford back in town. So yeah, good evening all. I'll announce the topics for this evening. It's the usual format, 5 cinema related rounds, a total of 50 questions altogether. And at the end, I'll reveal all the answers, tot up your scores, and we'll see how you all got on. Good luck to you. As I said, this is all for good fun, to raise your spirits during the lockdown, to test your cinema knowledge. It's all done in good taste, good humour, for enjoyment. Yeah, so enjoy the evening, and I'd appreciate any feedback from you at the end. Okay, so you ready for tonight's film topics? These were all chosen by your good selves. Somebody last week suggested, and I think it was Mr. Baseheart, hopefully he'll be able to confirm. So round number 1, we've gone with the Hollywood popular actor Tom Hanks films for round number 1. The second round, which I think was a Mr. Baseheart recommendation again, is musicals. The third round, and I think a certain colleague and friend of mine, Dave Robinson, will like this round. He's a big David Lynch fan, great filmmaker, totally unique David Lynch films for that round. Round number 3. Round number 4, we're going to look back at the 1980s with the popular Back to the Future Trilogy. And lastly, a recommendation, I think it was from Amanda Harris in the Capitol in London, with monster movies for the final round. Normally at the beginning, I give a couple of recommendations for films, television programs, watched on DVD, Blu-ray, and streamed online during the week. So I'll do that in just a minute. And just also sort of talk about any topics we're going to look at tonight and any purchases that I've made during the week as well. So I've tried to cut down a bit on my DVD and Blu-ray spending because I'm a bit of a hoarder. I'm always buying things on Amazon and mainly on eBay looking for bargains. I bought about 4 or 5 DVDs this week in the doghouse yet again. And these are my purchases for this week. I thought I'd share them with you, see what you think. I kind of feel as a cinema buff and somebody particularly interested in the history of film that I really need to squat up and watch more films by the Italian filmmaker Federico Fellini. And I managed to find this box set. It was about £15 on eBay, so I picked this one up. I haven't seen 8.5 since I was about 16 years of age. It's hailed as one of the greatest films ever made, a film within a film with Marcello Mastroianni. Also La Dolce Vita, which I've never seen. Juliet the Spirits, which I don't know. And the last one, which I may pronounce wrongly, La Vetellini, the last film. Anyone seen any of these Fellini films? Do you recommend them? Are you a Fellini fan? What are your opinions on the great Italian master, Federico Fellini? That was purchase number 1. Number 2 was a film I saw being spoken about on a website talking about film epics. Films like Once Upon a Time in America, Gone with the Wind, Heaven's Gate. This is a 7-hour film about the fall of communism in Eastern Europe. It's a film called Satan Tango. I hope I pronounced that right. I've heard some very good things about it. Don't know particularly much about it. Has anyone seen this film? Have they sat through the full 7 hours? And if so, what are your opinions? I'd like to hear. I need to watch this one at some point when I've got 7 hours of free time on my hands. So that was the second purchase, again on eBay. A lot of people tell me about a filmmaker who sadly passed away a few years back called Edward Yang, an Asian filmmaker. So I purchased on the Criterion collection 2 of his films. The first one's called Brighter Summer Day, which is a long epic, which is supposed to be a beautiful film, very acclaimed. That's number 1, Edward Yang movie. And then the second one, by the same director, the English pronunciation is A 1 and a 2. Another film hailed and very much acclaimed is this one, again on the Criterion label, which is an excellent label for DVD and Blu-ray releases of classic and acclaimed films. And that was my last purchase, so I need to sit down at some stage and watch these. Okay, so before we move on to the quiz, the first film I watched this week, which was literally off the back of last week's quiz, we did a round on the actor Kevin Bacon. And I'd heard some good things about this little indie film he made called The Woodsman, which came out, I believe, in 2004. It stars Bacon in the lead role and his wife, Kira Sedgwick. This is a very dark film about a man who in the past had done wrong. He's a child molester that spent 12 years inside. He comes out of prison to start a new life and get rid of the demons in his past. He's working as a labourer for a construction company, given a second chance, and gets in a relationship with a woman that he works with, a co-worker, played by his wife, Kira Sedgwick, and then finally admits to her his demons and what he's done in the past and wants to move on. I thought this was a really good film. I thought Kevin Bacon was good. I was particularly more impressed with his wife's performance, Kira Sedgwick. I thought she was excellent. It's quite a short film. It's only 85 minutes. But yeah, I'd highly recommend this. I don't know if anyone's seen it. It's quite a challenging film. It's a very dark film on a very difficult topic, but overall worth a watch. I thought this was a good film. Okay, so I've got a second recommendation of a film I've watched this week later on for you, and a couple of things I want to ask you before I reveal the answers. But is everybody ready for the 15th edition of the LA Cinema Quiz? You can never have too many DVDs, Shirley's saying. I think I've got too many. I've got them in the shed. I've got them on this bookshelf, one next door. I think I need a bit of a clean out. Otherwise, I'm going to be in big trouble. The Knights of Cabria, yeah, a Fellini film. I think his wife was in that one, wasn't she? I can't think of her name offhand. Okay, so we'll start the quiz. Hope you're all relaxed. I take it you're all having a Friday night beverage. I've got a terrible concoction tonight. I've got a Red Bull to kind of stimulate me and keep me awake. I've got some water so I don't get a dry throat in the mug. And crazily, I've got a glass of wine as well. So hopefully I won't be needing to pop to the toilet too much this evening. Okay, so let's go with round number one. The first round of tonight is 5. And we had a recommendation from Mr. Baseheart for Tom Hanks films. So 10 questions. I'll repeat the questions as I go along. The only thing I'll say, which I say every week, is don't write your answers in the chat box because obviously everyone will see them. And good luck and enjoy. Okay, Tom Hanks, round number 1, question number 1. So number 1, Tom Hanks has won the Academy Award twice, but is yet to win the BAFTA, despite 5 nominations. But can you name all 5 film appearances? That is number 1 to kick off the night. The superstar Hollywood actor Tom Hanks. He's won the Academy Award on 2 occasions, but never won the British BAFTA. Despite 5 nominations, can you name all 5 films he's been nominated for? So 5 answers for question number 1. A tough start to tonight's quiz. Jay Gibbs, tuning into the channel, the man who suggested the round we did a few weeks back, movie props, which I enjoyed doing. It's a good little round. Question number 2. Name the Tom Hanks directed movie of 1996 about a local Pennsylvanian band who scores a one-hit pop wonder back in 1964. Okay, so from actor to director, Tom Hanks, the star, directed a film. It was released in 1996. It's about a local Pennsylvanian band who scores a one-hit pop wonder in 1964. But can you tell me the name of the Tom Hanks directed movie? This one did crop up a couple of weeks ago during one of the quizzes. I think I mentioned the film. I played an excerpt of a song from the film. Number 3, 2 answers for this one. Name the American actress who co-stars alongside Hanks and plays Mermaid Madison in the romantic comedy Splash. But for a bonus point, name the actor-comedian who plays Hanks' brother, Freddie Boa. That is number 3. Tom Hanks, round number 1 tonight. For can you believe it, the 15th edition of the LA Cinema Quiz. Just flown by the 15 weeks. So yeah, 2 answers to number 3. Name the American actress who co-stars alongside Hanks and plays Mermaid Madison in the romantic comedy Splash. And for the bonus point, name the actor-comedian who plays Hanks's brother in the film, called Freddie Boa. the character's name. Moving on to number 4. This was a film I really liked, but name the Tom Hanks film from 2015, set during the Cold War, and it's about an American lawyer recruited to defend an arrested Soviet spy. Number 4, that one. So number 4, repeated again. Name the Tom Hanks film from 2015, set during the Cold War, about an American lawyer recruited to defend an arrested Soviet spy. Halfway through the round as I'm mixing my drinks. So question number 5. Hanks plays Walt Disney in which biographical drama released in 2013 and co-starring Emma Thompson? It's number 5. So number 5 again. Hanks plays Walt Disney in which biographical drama released in 2013 and co-starring British actress Emma Thompson? Okay, number 6 now for round number 1. Hanks met his future wife, who he married in 1988, whilst working on the comedy film Volunteers in 1985. But who is she? Can you tell me the name of Tom Hanks's other half? His wife, he married her in 1988. So fellow acting profession, she's an actress, but Hanks met his future wife, who he married in 1988 whilst working on the comedy film Volunteers back in 1985. But can you tell me her name for 1 point? We move on to number 7. Okay, so Hanks plays a detective who adopts a dog to find a killer in which beloved comedy drama from 1989? So this is a film that people seem to love from back in the late 1980s. But the question is, Hanks plays a detective who adopts a dog to find a killer in which beloved comedy drama from 1989? Remember this one coming out, and I remember going to the cinema at the time in the centre of Bristol. I remember seeing this poster in the lobby. Those old posters, those old cinemas, the smell of the popcorn. Back in the good old days. So number 7, Hanks plays a detective who adopts a dog to find a killer in which beloved comedy released in 1989? Couple more left for the round. So we move from feature film to television. Number 8, Hanks acted as executive producer on which acclaimed 2001 television miniseries, which was critically acclaimed, and it was set during World War II. Just need the name of the program. Released back in 2001. Can't believe it was that long ago. Hanks was executive producer. It was a mini-series, critically acclaimed, and it was set during the Second World War. But tell me the name of the program. That one is question number 8. 2 more left for the first round. The 15th edition of the quiz. Number 9, Hanks won the Oscar for his performance in Philadelphia. He plays a man with HIV who is fired by his law firm because of his condition. But name the actor who plays his lawyer in the film. So this is a film from the early 90s. I think it was 92 or 93. Hanks won the Oscar for his performance. The film was Philadelphia. He plays a man with HIV who is fired by his law firm because of his condition. But can you name the actor who plays the lawyer who defends him in Philadelphia. And now the last question, number 10 of the round. Name this Tom Hanks film from 1999. I'll give you a description. So it's a 1999 film release. Hanks plays a prison warden whose life is affected when a prison inmate arrives, accused of child murder and rape, yet who has a mysterious gift. But tell me the title of the film. Released in the late 90s. It was 1999. So I'll repeat that. Last one of the round. Name the Tom Hanks film from 1999. Hanks plays a prison warden whose life is affected when a prison inmate arrives, accused of child murder and rape, yet who has a mysterious gift. Name the film for 1 point. That's all 10 questions. First round, round number 1. On the popular actor Tom Hanks, who I always think comes across as quite a down-to-earth, very pleasant individual. Doesn't seem to have any ego, and a very fine actor, often compared to the late Hollywood superstar Jimmy Stewart. Very similar kind of actors. But how did you get on with your Tom Hanks round? Do you think you got an A+ on this one? Do you know your Tom Hanks filmography? Or do you feel bottom of the class on this one? Any comments? How did you fare with Tom Hanks? Did you like the round? Maybe not so keen? What are your predicted scores for round number 1 as we move on to the second round of tonight's 50-question quiz? How did you fare? Andy Rouse, first to come on board with an 8, would be a good score indeed on your Tom Hanks movies. Anyone else confident or maybe not so confident on this particular topic for tonight? All depends on the first question, says Mr. Baseheart. Anybody else want to declare their predicted scores before we move on to number 2? 100% Rob Delaney knows his Tom Hanks. Gail Rogers, 9-ish, depending on question number 1, which is maybe one of the hardest for that round. Shirley Cormish saying a 7. That would be a good score as well. And Kieran Nicholson, very confident with a full 10 for this one. And Lucy Hawkins, also confident. I think it was Lucy who recommended the Kevin Bacon round, if I'm right. Okay, so we'll move on to number 2. I think somebody recommended musicals. I think it was Mr. Baseheart. I may be wrong. Who recommended musicals? We've added it to tonight's list. Round number 2 will be musicals. Again, 10 questions. If you need any repeating, same with round 1, let me know. So Shan Natman likes her musicals. Let's see how she gets on. 10 questions. Here we go. We'll start with number 1. Okay, quite a contemporary film. Name the 2016 musical about a boy growing up in Dublin during the 1980s who escapes his strained family life by starting a band to impress a mysterious girl he likes. That is number 1. This was a film I really enjoyed when I saw it at the cinema. I bought the soundtrack. Really nice film. But it's released in 2016. It's a musical about a boy growing up in Dublin during the 1980s who escapes his strained family life by starting a band to impress a mysterious girl he likes. But can you tell me the name of the film? 2016. Number 1. Number 2 next. Round 2. Name the 2002 musical which won the Best Picture Oscar and won 6 Academy Awards in total. That is number 2. So name the 2002 musical which won the Best Picture Oscar and also won 6 Academy Awards. That's question number 2. Moving on to question 3. Gene Kelly plays Don Lockwood in the classic musical Singing in the Rain, but name his female co-star who plays the role of Kathy Selden. So this is one of the great masterpieces, a classical musical, I believe, released in the 50s, Singing in the Rain. The great dancer Gene Kelly plays Don Lockwood in the classic musical Singing in the Rain, but name his female co-star who plays the role of Kathy Selden. It's question number 3 on musicals. Okay, so moving on to number 4. 2 answers for number 4. We're going to go back in time a little bit. Classic cinema, the black and white years. But name the famous American dancing duo who appear in the famous 1935 musical Top Hat. So number 4 again, going back to the 1930s decade of cinema. But can you name the famous American dancing duo who appear in the 1935 musical Top Hat? Answers, a duo. Who are they? Very famous, very iconic in Hollywood musicals. Halfway through the round now, as we go on to number 5. But name the man who wrote the original musical play The Rocky Horror Picture Show and plays Riff Raff in the film version. So number 5, name the man who wrote the original musical play The Rocky Horror Picture Show, and he also plays the character Riff Raff in the film version. But who is he? That is number 5. I'll have a quick swig of the water. So that was 5. Number 6 now. Name the director of The Who's film adaptation of Tommy, which stars Who frontman Roger Daltrey in the title role. So Pete Townsend of The Who wrote the album. It was adapted and made into a film. The film was called Tommy, and it starred Roger Daltrey as a deaf, dumb and blind man in the title role. But can you tell me the name of the director? That one is number 6. Round number 2, the musical round. Couple more left to go. Then I'll ask you how you've got on for this round. How did you fare? Number 7, which actress and singer won the Best Actress Oscar in a leading role for her performance in the 1972 movie Cabaret? Another acclaimed film, a musical from the 1970s. But which actress-singer won the Best Actress Oscar in a leading role for her performance in the 1972 movie Cabaret? Okay, so we'll move on to number 8 now. The Sound of Music won 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Sound Editing, Music, and Best Director. But who directed the film? A tricky one there. Looking for the name of the filmmaker for The Sound of Music. So The Sound of Music won 5 Academy Awards. It won Best Picture, Sound Editing, Music, and Best Director. But can you tell me who was the director who won the Best Director Academy Award for The Sound of Music? Number 9, 2 answers to this question. Can you name the 2 ABBA members who wrote the music for the film musical Mamma Mia? So 2 famous very talented and clever songsmiths from the supergroup ABBA. Tell me their names. They wrote the film music for Mamma Mia, the film, and there was a sequel as well. But can you tell me their names? So 2 answers to this one. Name the 2 male songwriters. And lastly, round number 2, I'm looking for a year for musicals. The Wizard of Oz was released in which year? Number 10, The Wizard of Oz was released in which year? That is the final one for round number 2. That's all 10 questions. Let me know if you need any repeating. I can do that, not a problem. And how did you all feel and fare for your musicals? How did you get on this round? So musicals was round number 2. Are you confident with this one? Or did you fare not so well knowing your musical films, the musical genre? How did you get on? We'll see if there's any predicted scores. Andy Rouse, 6 is quite a good score. Kieran Nicholson saying a 7, maybe. Mr. Bassheart, very confident as he goes in with a 9. And yeah, as I said, if you need any repeating for this round, just let me know. So a couple of good scores so far. Predictions, quite confident with a 6, a 7. Rob Delaney even more confident with a 10. And Lucy Hawkins saying possibly a score of 5 or 6 for round number 2. Okay, so before we move on to round number 3, Gail Rogers saying a tricky round. She's going for a possible 7 or 8. Yeah, so before we move on to the 3rd round, which I'll talk about in just a minute, another film watched during the week. I'd seen some things about this, a trailer online, and it's an Asian film by a filmmaker that Mr. Bassheart really recommends, called Takashi Kitano. This is a film called Hanabi, a film released in the 1990s. It did get a lot of critical acclaim when it was released in art house cinemas. I kind of feel I need to brush up a bit more on my Asian cinema. This is the first film I've seen by the director, and I thought this was an excellent film, highly recommended. Okay, so it was released in 1997. The filmmaker, as I said, is Takashi Kitano. It's about a detective called Nishi who leaves the police force after a stakeout goes terribly wrong. And it's basically about the personal and professional difficulties that take place in his life. And he spirals into depression and making questionable decisions and also caring for his ill wife. I thought this was a really, really good film. Highly recommended. It wasn't your typical detective movie. It was more about a person's life affected by tragedy, something that went wrong in his life, and mainly about the consequences of the stakeout going wrong with the fellow police officers. If you get a chance and you like your Asian cinema, this one's highly recommended. It's a great, great film, beautifully made, great direction. I highly recommend this. Can't say a bad thing about this film. Anybody seen this by any chance? Anyone know anything more about the director or seen any more of their films? Let me know. Really good film, that one. Like to see more films by the director. And we'll move on to the 3rd round. So what is the 3rd round for tonight? David Lynch films. Are there any David Lynch fans taking part this evening? Great director. There's no one like David Lynch, is there? Totally unique, has his own style and mark on things. Made some great films in the past. Really good director. Okay, so round number 3. 10 questions on this one. David Lynch films. So, question number 1. Can you name the 1990 Lynch movie about lovers Sailor and Lulu who are on the run from a variety of weirdos that Lulu's mum has hired to kill Sailor? So we start off with a 1990 film directed by the American filmmaker David Lynch. And the question is, name the 1990 Lynch movie about lovers Sailor and Lulu who are on the run from a variety of weirdos that Lulu's mum's hired to kill Sailor. Tell me the name of the David Lynch film. That was my wife walking into the room. I thought it was my youngster invading the place again. He did a couple of weeks ago. You might remember it. It was quite good fun. Same stage of the quiz, I think, round number 3, and my little one, who I thought was in bed at the time, walked in, and I thought he was fast asleep. And yeah, it was quite a funny moment. Question number 2, David Lynch. Name the Italian actress who plays mysterious nightclub singer Dorothy Valens in Lynch's 1986 movie, Blue Velvet. That's question number 2. So number 2 again, name the Italian actress who plays mysterious nightclub singer Dorothy Valens in David Lynch's 1986 movie, Blue Velvet. It's a film I haven't seen for a long time. A mad film, but a very prolific film on David Lynch's CV. Okay, number 3. Lynch's last feature film was released in 2006 and is about an actress who begins to adopt the persona of her character in a film, but can you tell me the name of the film? So David Lynch film, it was the last feature film he made, released in 2006. It's about an actress who begins to adopt the persona of her character in a film, but can you tell me the name of the last feature film directed by David Lynch? Just have another swig. Okay. Next question, number 4, we move on to. Can you name the British actor who won the BAFTA for his performance as John Merrick in David Lynch's The Elephant Man? So this is probably one of David Lynch's more kind of linear narrative films, not particularly offbeat and as surreal as some of them. I suppose it is a little bit offbeat in subject matter, but the film was The Elephant Man. But tell me the British actor who won the BAFTA for his performance as John Merrick in the film. Number 5, David Lynch. So we're halfway through the round now. So question 5, name Lynch's feature film debut from 1977, which sees Henry Spencer trying to survive his industrial environment, an angry girlfriend, and the screams of his newly born mutant child. Okay, I'll repeat that one. So number 5, name Lynch's feature film debut from 1977, which sees Henry Spencer trying to survive his industrial environment, an angry girlfriend, and the screams of his newly born mutant child. So this is a surreal David Lynch film, his debut, but tell me the name of the film. Number 6 now. Lynch's 1984 science fiction epic Dune is adapted from a novel by which author? So this is a film that's been remade. It's hopefully, touch wood, will be released in the winter by Denis Villeneuve, who did the Blade Runner sequel, Sicario, Prisoners as well. David Lynch always goes on record and says it's his most disappointed film. But the 1984 science fiction epic Dune is adapted from a novel by which author? That is number 6. Number 7 now is a Twin Peaks related question. Name the character who was killed in the town of Twin Peaks and leads FBI Special Agent Dale Cooper on an investigation to find the killer. So a Twin Peaks TV question, but name the character who was killed in the town of Twin Peaks and leads FBI Special Agent Dale Cooper on an investigation to find the killer. A couple more left in this round. On the filmmaker, the American filmmaker and artist David Lynch. Next one, name the 1999 Lynch movie which sees an old man make a long journey by lawnmower to mend his relationship with his ill brother. So this was a film released in 1999. I saw this one at the cinema. I thought it was a little gem of a film, lovely little film. And again, kind of very much followed a standard Hollywood narrative, which is unusual for Lynch, but name the 1999 Lynch movie, which sees an old man make a long journey by lawnmower to mend his relationship with his ill brother. 2 more to go for round number 3. As we go on now to question number 9. Okay, so name the full working title of the 1992 film set before the events that took place in the Twin Peaks television series. So another Twin Peaks question, David Lynch, of course. But tell me the full title of the film, released in 1992. It's the events that took place before the Twin Peaks television series was set. But tell me the full working title of the film, as I said, released back in 1992. And lastly, question number 30 of the night. Name the 2016 documentary film which looks at David Lynch's early life and the events that shaped his outlook on art and the creative process. This was a documentary released a couple of years back. It received some good, favourable critique. But can you tell me the name of the film, the documentary film, which looks at the filmmaker David Lynch's early life and the events that shaped his outlook on art and the creative process? All 10 questions there on director David Lynch. But how did you get on with your David Lynch questions? Are there many fans this evening of David Lynch? Maybe you're not fans. Maybe you don't like his work. Did you enjoy the round? Do you think you're going to top the class with a good score? Maybe an A+? Or do you feel a D- for this one? Not so comfortable on your David Lynch filmography? Anyone confident with their scores? Kieran Nicholson a 5. Andy Rowell says rubbish. He's not confident whatsoever with a 2. Gail Rogers saying a 6-ish. Mr. Baseheart saying a 9 for David Lynch. So that one And Philip Rouse saying a 0. Not confident with his David Lynch. Dedicated that round to a colleague of mine I work with in cinemas, David Robinson. He's a big Lynch fan, loves his films. Hopefully he's going to get 4 marks for this one. Good luck. And we'll move on to the next round. Anyone need any repeating for that round at all before we move on? As we move on, 2 more rounds to go for tonight. The 15th week of the quiz. It's gone by so quick, these 15 weeks. Every Friday, of course, we've been doing the quizzes. So round number 4, I thought we'd do something very popular. A box office smash from the 1980s. We're going to go back in time. We're going to go back to the future with round number 4. Before I do the 10 questions, have we got any big Back to the Future enthusiasts taking part this evening? If so, let me know. Such a popular film from the 1980s, a trilogy that really has stood the test of time. Very well written, clever films, really good. Kieran, a fan, says, yeah, love all 3. I was too young to see these at the cinema. The only one I did see was the last one, Back to the Future 3. I saw that one at the cinema, which I think was around about 89, 90. And Kieran Nicholson showing his love, his devotion. Love them all. Okay, so Back to the Future now. Okay, so number 1. Name director Rob Zemeckis' co-writer on the Back to the Future trilogy of films. So yeah, director Robert Zemeckis co-wrote the scripts with someone else. Tell me the name of that person. They wrote all 3 films together. Massive box office commercial success. Let's just hope they're not remade. Let's hope they don't do a 4th. Maybe some people would like a 4th. I don't think that's going to happen. So number 1, name director Robert Zemeckis' co-writer for the Back to the Future trilogy of films. That's number 1 to kick off the round. Number 2, name the actor who originally played Marty McFly, but was replaced after 6 weeks of shooting by Michael J. Fox. So yeah, I was playing a couple of YouTube videos about this and interviews with the cast. So an original actor was cast. He filmed the part for 6 weeks and sadly was fired from the film and replaced by Michael J. Fox. But tell me the name of the American actor. So who originally played Marty McFly before Michael J. Fox came on board? 2 answers for number 3 for your Back to the Future round. Number 3, name the 2 actresses who play Marty McFly's love interest, Jennifer Parker, in the trilogy of films. So the original actress was in Back to the Future 1 in 1985. She couldn't reprise the role for personal, professional reasons. They brought another actress on board. But tell me the name of the 2 actresses who play the role of Marty McFly's love interest, Jennifer Parker, in Back to the Future 2, and Back to the Future 3. To the Back to the Future round. The next question, number 4. Marty travels back to which year to rescue Doc and return to 1985 in Back to the Future 3? So the last installment in the trilogy. But tell me, Marty travels back to which year to rescue Doc and return to 1985 in Back to the Future 3? So just tell me what year they go back to in Back to the Future Part 3. Number 5 now. I think you'll all get this one. Kind of nice and simple. What's the name of the fictional automobile time machine featured in the Back to the Future franchise? A friend of mine on his wedding hired out this car on his wedding day. A guy in Bristol did it as kind of a sideline business. You could hire out the car for a special occasion, your wedding, your birthday. But tell me the name of the fictional automobile time machine featured in the Back to the Future franchise. Excuse me. It was also a car that was manufactured and released in the 1980s. But tell me the name of the car. What was it called? Number 6 now. Name the American band who performed the hit single The Power of Love from Back to the Future, the first film. So number 6. Name the US band who performed the hit The Power of Love from the first Back to the Future movie. It was a big hit in 1985. As Mr. Bassart said, Dave Robinson got 4 marks on the David Lynch round. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'd imagine if I put the obscure ones in, the short films, I think he'd probably still get a maximum score. Yeah, I love David Lynch. For me, he's just such a unique filmmaker. He's like the Louis Buñuel of American cinema, surrealist, interesting guy as well, mad as a hatter. But yeah, I love him. I suppose he's a little bit like Marmite. You either love his films or you don't, but totally unique. No one like him. Number 7, a sidetracking a bit, back to Back to the Future. What is Doc Brown's dog's name? Nice and short one. So number 7 again. What is Doc Brown's dog's name? That is number 7. A couple more to finish up this round. The next one. Number 8, 2 answers to this one. A musical question. What song does Marty perform at the 1950s high school ball? And who was the original performer of the song? Quite a simple one. I'd imagine most of you will get this one. In a previous quiz, I mentioned that as a young boy, I saw the performer of this song. It's a memory that really sticks in my mind. I was 11 at the time. Kind of a unique experience. A legend in music. But what song does Marty McFly perform at the 1950s high school ball? And who was the original performer of that song? That is number 8. 2 more left for this round. As we go back to the 1980s, kind of a renaissance period for a lot of movie buffs and nostalgists. People seem to love the 80s, and they love this film. What speed does the time machine have to reach to travel through time in the Back to the Future films? So what speed? So number 9, what speed does the time machine have to reach to travel through time in the Back to the Future franchise of films? And I think we're on to the last one now. Yeah, we are. Last one, around number 4. Question number 10, of course. What movie is being advertised in Future 2015 in Back to the Future Part 2? So this is the last question of the round. And it is, what movie is being advertised in Future 2015 in Back to the Future Part 2? Okay, so that's all 10 questions for the 4th round of the 15th edition of the quiz, the LA Cinema Quiz. We've had a couple of people taking part tonight. You say they're Back to the Future fans, but did you get a full house or not so confident? Did you enjoy the round? Somebody recommended this one last week. If they're taking part, let me know who that was. How did you get on with your Back to the Future movies? Anyone gonna declare what they think they scored for this particular round? Gail Rogers, very confident, loves the Back to the Future films. I think we all do. They're gems, aren't they? 12 out of 12. Mr. Baseheart, confident with 11. That would be a good score. So Gail Rogers, Mr. Baseheart, pretty confident. They liked the round, suited them. They had the knowledge. Anyone else want to declare what they think they scored for this round as we move on to the final round of tonight? Another 10 questions on monster movies. Lucy Hawkins saying a 6, maybe. And Kieran Nicholson, confident with a 9 and a smiley face. So we'll move on. You're all ready for the last round. This one was a recommendation from Amanda Harris. I don't know if she's taking part tonight. I've not seen a comment, but she asked last week for there to be a round on monster movies, monster-themed films. It's Andy Rowles, confident with an 8 for the last round on Back to the Future. Okay, let's go with the last 10 questions. Monster movies. See if you know your monsters and link them up with the films. Okay, so number 1, Clive Barker question. Name the Clive Barker film from 1992 about a troubled young man who was drawn to a mythic place called Midian, where friendly monsters are hiding from humanity. They've just done a Blu-ray release of this one, which I fancy getting hold of. I think it might be Arrow Films. Never seen this film, but I've heard good things. It's a Clive Barker film from 1992 about a troubled young man who was drawn to a mythic place called Midian, where friendly monsters are hiding from humanity. But tell me the name of the Clive Barker film from 1992. Number 2 now, round 5 monster films. Name the 1982 Wes Craven film about a research scientist who was turned into a plant-like monster. This is a film I kind of remember fondly. I remember there being a cartoon that I used to watch. It used to be quite funny. I think it was shown on like a Saturday morning as part of one of the magazine programs. But name the 1982 Wes Craven film about a research scientist who was turned into a plant-like monster. Number 3 now, this is a film that I was chatting to about someone not so long ago. I remember seeing this on a VHS video back in the day. It must have been in the 90s as a kid, maybe the 80s. But name the Shane Black penned horror comedy from 1987, which sees a group of young boys attempt to save their hometown from Count Dracula and his cohorts. Number 3 again, name the Shane Black horror comedy from 1987, which sees a group of young boys attempt to save their hometown from Count Dracula and his cohorts. It's number 3, the final round. Number 4 now. Which Hollywood icon plays the role of teenager Steve Andrews in the 1958 film version of The Blob? So this was a film that was remade, a horror film. I think the remake came out in the early 80s. I remember seeing it a long time ago. But for this question, name the Hollywood icon who plays the role of teenager Steve Andrews in the 1958 movie version of The Blob. Next one, number 5. So we move to American film, to Asian cinema. Name Parasite director Bong Joon-ho's monster movie from 2006. It's about a monster emerging from Seoul's Han River and begins attacking people. One victim's loving family does what it can to rescue her from its clutches. So this is a monster film. Came out in 2006 and directed by Parasite filmmaker Bong Joon-ho. It's about a monster emerging from Seoul's Han River and begins attacking people. One victim's loving family does what it can to rescue her from its clutches. But tell me the name of the film. Okay, more than halfway through the round. Number 6 now. Which former WWF, or should I say WWE now, wrestler and commentator makes a cameo appearance as Blaine in 1987's Predator? So, a Schwarzenegger film from the late 80s, but which former WWF wrestler and commentator makes a cameo appearance as Blaine in 1987's Predator? A man who's been a governor in the States, involved in politics, a conspiracy theorist as well, hosted his own television series on conspiracy theories set around Kennedy, 9/11. But tell me the name of the WWF wrestler and commentator who makes a cameo appearance as Blaine in 1987's Predator. Number 7 now. Name the cult 1989 horror film about an ordinary teenage boy who discovers his family are part of a gruesome orgy cult for a social elite. Number 7, a cult film from 1989, a horror. It's about an ordinary teenage boy who discovers his family are part of a gruesome orgy cult for the social elite. But tell me the name of the film. The last round of tonight, a couple more to finish up tonight's quiz. This next one is question number 8. We go back a bit, we go to the 1930s, the early part of the decade. Name the actor who plays Dr. Henry Jekyll and Mr. Edward Hyde in the 1931 film version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So number 8 again. Name the actor who plays Dr. Henry Jekyll and Mr. Edward Hyde in the 1931 film version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. 2 more left. Number 9 now. Name the 1981 horror movie from this brief synopsis. 5 friends travel to a cabin in the woods where they unknowingly release flesh-possessing demons. I'll repeat that. Maybe the wine's gone to my head. I've only had 1 glass. Name the 1981 horror movie from this brief synopsis. 5 friends travel to a cabin in the woods where they unknowingly release flesh-possessing demons. Tell me the title of the film. A monster horror film back in the year I was born, 1981. And lastly, number 10. Still A question from the 80s, the early 80s. Name the 1982 sci-fi horror about a research team in Antarctica who are hunted by a changing alien that assumes the appearance of its victims. That is the last one. The 50th question of the night, the final one. Monster films. A recommendation from Amanda Harris. She's in London, in Muswell Hill. And the question was, name the 1982 sci-fi horror about a research team in Antarctica who were hunted by a changing alien that assumes the appearance of his victims. Yeah, so Mr. Bassart, that's all 10 questions, asking me to repeat number 8. Yeah, no problem. So number 8 was, name the actor who plays Dr. Henry Jekyll and Mr. Edward Hyde in the 1931 film version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That was number 8. So yeah, that was the last round of tonight, the final 5th round. How did you all fare with your monster films? Anyone confident with a full house on your monsters? Couple of difficult ones in there. Couple of little indie horror films that were tricky. I think the one about the elite group cult film from 1989 was a tricky one. Couple of difficult ones. How did you find the round? Were you confident or not so confident on this one? How did you fare? For your monster movies, which was the last round, a recommendation from Amanda Harris, that one, a regular participant on the quizzes. I don't think she's here tonight, which is a shame. Okay, how did you get on? Mr. Bassart says a 9, he thinks, and Lucy Hawkins thinks she got a 6 for the monster round. Shirley Cormish, not bad, but can't think of the name of the Clive Barker film. Yeah, I've never seen this film, but I've heard some good things about it. I hear it's a good horror film. You'll probably be kicking yourself when I reveal the answer at the end. Anyone else enjoyed or didn't enjoy so much the monster round? In a minute, I'll reveal the answers for the 15th edition of the quiz. Before we do, I kind of wanted to ask you a couple of little things, which would be interesting to hear your answers, your responses. Okay, so we had a Tom Hanks round earlier on. A really popular Hollywood star. He's been around a long, long time, from around about the early 80s to present day. So, are there any Tom Hanks fans participating in tonight's quiz? And if so, what would you take on a desert island as your favourite Tom Hanks films? Which ones do you like? If I had to say Tom Hanks films I like, Big is an obvious choice, isn't it? From the 80s. The Dude, loving that name. Big Lebowski, I guess. Castaway. Yeah, it's cropped up a few times. Big. Does anyone know who was originally cast as the role in Big before Tom Hanks got the part? That was going to be a question. So another actor was going to be originally cast in the main role. It went to Tom Hanks eventually, and the actor was really disappointed he didn't get the part. He was asked by Barry Norman about why he didn't get the role, and it caused a bit of kerfuffle. It was actually Robert De Niro that was going to play the part, and the director thought that it wouldn't necessarily work. It'd be more of a serious role. The Burbs, yeah. De Niro would play it more serious and straight than comedy, although he's ventured more into comedy of late. Yeah, The Burbs, I enjoyed that one. Got films like The Money Pit, What other Tom Hanks? Joe versus the Volcano. Did a few with Meg Ryan, didn't they? They were kind of like a perfect romantic couple with Sleepless in Seattle. You've got Mail. I like Bridge of Spies. I thought that was a good Steven Spielberg film with a really good script. Kieran Ray saying Toy Story. Yeah, of course. The Toy Story Pixar Disney films. Toy Stories 1 to 4. The second question I was going to ask you is we had a round on director David Lynch. Are there any David Lynch fans taking part in the quiz? Apart from Dave Robinson, what Lynch films do you really like? Yeah, Road to Perdition was a good Sam Mendes film. I remember seeing that one. Forrest Gump, that won in the Oscar back in the mid 90s. Life is Like a Box of Chocolates. The dude saying he loves Lynch. Yeah, Lynch is great. I thought Blue Velvet was fantastic. Great film. There's a few of them I've liked. I just think he's unique. There's no one like David Lynch. Style of it, all of his own. Yeah, Lost Highway. Good film. Yeah, The Elephant Man was a good film. Saving Private Ryan. Tom Hanks, The Terminal. Another Spielberg collaboration. Mulholland Drive is probably, a lot of people say, one of his masterpieces and one of the best films released so far in the 2000s. I remember seeing that one at the cinema. It's a mad film. I went, I was a little bit disappointed with the new Twin Peaks series. I thought it was trying to just be a little bit too bizarre for my liking, and I didn't think it followed on particularly well to the original series. But a lot of people thought it was great. There was a few of the early episodes I enjoyed, but overall I was a little bit underwhelmed by it. I got to be honest. Yeah, Straight Story. Yeah, that cropped up in a question tonight. Catch Me If You Can. That's another Spielberg film. Tom Hanks. Yeah, indeed. We said DiCaprio. That could be a future round. And my last question to you tonight is I've been finding that during the 15 weeks of the lockdown, I've been kind of doing tasks and things of interest to kind of occupy my time that I didn't think I could really do. So, for instance, and I'm not going to share with you any of these, I've kind of been doing some sketches for my kids, drawing old cartoon characters like Windy Miller, from Camberwick Green, Trumpton, He-Man, characters like that, Spider-Man. So I've quite enjoyed doing that. Just little sketches of famous cartoon characters. And another thing I've done, I've written about 8 songs. I've kind of been writing music. I kind of come up with a title of a song or an idea. And I've written, yeah, about 8 or 9 songs in different styles, some rock and roll ones, some country music, just coming up with little ideas. So I hope to kind of try and record them at some stage. I've really enjoyed that. So just wanted to find out things you've been doing to occupy your time during the lockdown that maybe you didn't think you kind of could do, or maybe they're creative things. Maybe it's things like cooking, reading, watching films, playing sport. Another thing I've been doing is tennis. I've been having lessons and I quite enjoy it. For me, it's a good way of getting out your frustration, hitting a tennis ball. So what kind of things have you been doing to occupy yourselves? Philip saying working. Yeah, of course. I've been furloughed since late March, which I'll mention at the end of the quiz. Working again. I wasn't trying to rub any salt in the wound. Yeah, I wish I was working, to be honest. I've just been finding stuff to kind of stimulate me mentally, physically, creatively. Anyone else? Swimming and surfing. Yeah, I do love swimming. Haven't done it for a long time. Used to go swimming in my 20s. Used to get up about 6 a.m. and go for a swim for about an hour. A good way of keeping a good physique. Andy Rao's just retired. I hope you're enjoying retirement. Okay, gardening. Yeah, it's always relaxing. Walking and drawing. Yeah, I know this furlough thing is, yeah, it's bizarre. But in fairness, I'm trying to make the most of it, spending time with my little ones, because I don't think I'll ever maybe have the opportunity to ever spend as much time with my children and family again. So I'm kind of trying to make the best of it. Reading coming up again. Okay, so you ready for the answers for tonight's quiz? We'll see how you all got on. And then one last thing at the end. So reading Pillar of the Earth by Ken Follett, a great novel. I don't know that one, I'm afraid. I'm lazy. I don't read enough. I really should do. My dad was a reader, but learning to play drums. Yeah, I've done a little bit of drumming. It's enjoyable. Reading Don Quixote before they make the film. I think they've just done a film, haven't they? Terry Gilliam finally did. Stitch the Giant Duvet cover. Took me 9 years. That's a great achievement. Okay, let's go with the answers then. So what was round number one? It was Tom Hanks, wasn't it? So I said he's won the Academy Award twice, never won the BAFTA, but he's been nominated 5 times. So the films were Forrest Gump, Saving Private Ryan, Castaway, Captain Phillips, and A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. So the BAFTA nominations were Forrest Gump, Saving Private Ryan, Castaway, Captain Phillips, and A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. So number 2, the Tom Hanks directed movie of 96 about a one-hit wonder band was That Thing You Do. That Thing You Do is answer number 2. Number 3, 2 answers. Name the actress who plays the mermaid in Splash and who plays Hanks's brother. It was Daryl Hannah, of course, who plays the mermaid Madison. And it was the late comedian John Candy, who plays Tom Hanks's brother. So the 2 answers again are Daryl Hannah and John Candy. Number 4, the 2015 Cold War film featuring Tom Hanks in the lead role was Bridge of Spies, which I mentioned earlier on. I thought that was a great little film from Steven Spielberg. Bridge of Spies, answer number 4. Saving Mr. Banks was answer number 5, where he plays Walt Disney in the biographical drama with Emma Thompson. So Saving Mr. Banks. Number 6, Tom Hanks's wife is Rita Wilson. So Rita Wilson, who he married in 1988, and he met on the film The Volunteers in 1985. Number 7, he plays a detective, adopts a dog in the 1989 film Turner and Hooch. So Turner and Hooch is the answer for that one, for number 7. Number 8, he was executive producer on the 2001 television series Band of Brothers. So Band of Brothers, the answer for number 8. Number 9, it was Denzel Washington. He plays the lawyer who defends Hanks in the film Philadelphia. So Philadelphia, Denzel Washington is the answer. And lastly, number 10, the film I described from 1999 was The Green Mile. So The Green Mile, the final answer to round number 10. If you tally up your scores, how did you fare for this round? How did you all get on? Most importantly, how did you find the round? Did you enjoy this one? Maybe next week we can pick another movie star I think somebody did suggest a Leonardo DiCaprio round. Can maybe do that next week. Mr. Basehart, a good score of 14. Andy Rouse, double one, 11. Good score. Lucy Hawkins, 10 out of 15 answers. Another good score. Anyone else? So you've had scores from Mr. Basehart, Andy Rouse, and Lucy Hawkins for round number 1. Gail did well, 14 here. And Kieran Nicholson, very good. Score of 15, top score so far. Very good. We'll move on in just a moment to the answers for round number 2, which I think was musicals. Yeah, it was musicals. Shirley Cormish enjoyed the round. She got only a 7. Let's go with number 2 then. 10 questions on the musicals. Answer number 1, I described a film from 2016, a musical about a boy growing up in Dublin. The film is Sing Street. So Sing Street is the answer for number 1. The answer for number 2, the musical from 2002, that won Best Picture and 6 Academy Awards, was a film I've not seen. It's Chicago. So Chicago, answer number 2. Number 3, who is Gene Kelly's co-star in Singing in the Rain? The female co-star who plays Kathy Selden. It's Debbie Reynolds. Debbie Reynolds, the answer for that one, number 3. Number 4, the duo who appear in the 1935 musical Top Hat is Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. So Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. Number 5, it's Richard O'Brien from the Crystal Maze, who wrote the original music for the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and he plays Riff Raff. So Richard O'Brien. Number 6, it was Ken Russell, the old British eccentric who directed the film version of Tommy. So Ken Russell, the answer for that one. That was number 6. Number 7, it was Liza Minnelli that won the Best Actress Oscar for her performance in 1972's Cabaret. So Liza Minnelli for that one. Number 8, a tricky one, but it was Robert Wise, the director, who won the Academy Award, and he was the director of The Sound of Music. So Robert Wise. Number 9, tell me the names of the songwriters who wrote the music for the film Mamma Mia. It was the members of ABBA, of course. I'd accept Benny and Bjorn, but it's Benny Andersson and Bjorn Ulvaeus. I think it's Ulvaeus. Difficult pronunciation. So Benny and Bjorn, the male members of ABBA, the supergroup. And lastly, number 10. What year was The Wizard of Oz, the original film, released? It was 1939. So 1939, the year of release for the classic The Wizard of Oz. How did everyone get on with musicals? Any good scores for this one? I would have found this a tricky round. It's not really my forte, musicals. I'm not a massive fan of the musical genre, I've got to be honest. Kieran Nicholson saying a 7, Andy Rouse an 8 for this one. Not bad scores. Anyone else? 8. I wrote Chicago and then changed it to Moulin Rouge. So Mr. Basehart an 8 for that round. Another good score. Anyone else before we move on for the answers for round number 3, which was filmmaker David Lynch? 9, Gail Rogers. Good score again. Okay, so David Lynch was the topic for number 3. Lucy Hawkins a 6. Okay, so Wild at Heart is the answer for number 1, the 1990 Lynch movie that I described. The answer for number 2, it was Isabella Rossellini, Roberto Rossellini's daughter, who plays Dorothy Valens in Blue Velvet from 1986. So Isabella Rossellini. Inland Empire was the last film, feature film directed by David Lynch from 2006. So Inland Empire. The British actor who won the BAFTA for his performance in The Elephant Man as John Merrick was the great and late John Hurt. So John Hurt, the answer for number 4. The Lynch feature film debut from 1977. I gave you a little description. The film was Eraserhead, a cult film, bizarre, surrealist cult film. It's Eraserhead. Tricky number 1 for 6. If anyone got this one, give me a shout out. Really hard one. I wouldn't have known this. The novelist who wrote Dune is Frank Herbert. It was a 1984 film from David Lynch, and he confesses it being his most disappointing film experience. So Frank Herbert wrote the Dune novel. The next question was the character who was killed in Twin Peaks the series, and it leaves Dale Cooper to investigate the killer. It was Laura Palmer. So Laura Palmer was the character name who's slain in the Twin Peaks series. The 1999 Lynch movie of an old man who makes a journey on a lawnmower to rekindle his relationship with his ill brother. It's The Straight Story. Good little film, The Straight Story. Number 9, the 1992 film set before Twin Peaks TV series was Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me, which was critically destroyed. It was panned by critics when it was released. It's now kind of a cult classic. So Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me. And lastly, the documentary film about David Lynch, released in 2016. It was called David Lynch, The Art of Life. So the last one, 10th question, was David Lynch, The Art of Life. How did everyone get on with this one? Tricky round if you don't know your David Lynch films, obviously. And a couple of hard questions in there. But how did you fare on David Lynch films? Kieran Nicholson, a 5. Mr. Basehart, obviously a David Lynch fan and watched many of his films, a 10. Great score. Lucy Hawkins, a good score with 7. So some good scores so far declared on Lynchian films. The Dude did particularly well with a 10. Score a 10, really good score. Any more? We'll move on to round number 4, 2 rounds to announce with the answers. Gail Rogers, a 7, another good score. Anyone else? So you've got scores of 5, 10, 7, 10 and 7. Be interesting to see what Dave Robinson scored. I did this round for him. He's a colleague of mine in my day job at Showcase Cinema, one of the managers. Loves his cult films and he loves his David Lynch. So that was a round for him. And his other half, Shan, also working for the cinema Showcase. I think Dave's gone back to work. Poor devil. I'll get myself into trouble one of these days. Dave only got 4 correct. I don't believe that. No way. I reckon he got probably the full house. Anyway, we'll move on to round 4. I think that was Back to the Future, wasn't it? Back to the Future. Answer number one, the scriptwriter who collaborated with Robert Zemeckis. His name is Bob Gale. So Bob Gale, the writer, number one. Question number two, the actor who originally played Marty McFly, they started filming the scenes. Didn't feel it worked. The comedy element, it was too serious. The actor was Eric Stoltz. So Eric Stoltz was replaced by Michael J. Fox, of course. The two actresses who played Jennifer Parker, Marty McFly's love interests in the trilogy, it was Claudia Wells in Back to the Future Part 1, the first one. She wasn't replaced. She couldn't reprise the role. I think because she was caring for one of her family members who was very ill. And it was Elizabeth Shue that was in Part 2 and Part 3. So it's Claudia Wells and then Elizabeth Shue. I used to have a mad crush on Elizabeth Shue back in the day. Adventures in Babysitting and The Karate Kid. I just thought she was a beautiful woman, the girl next door. She did Leave in Las Vegas as well, didn't she? So it's 1885 is the year they travel back to in Back to the Future 3, the final part of the trilogy. So 1885. The DeLorean time machine is the answer for number 5. The DeLorean. I'd imagine you all got that one. Number 6, the band who had a big hit with The Power of Love from the film, the first film. It was Huey Lewis and the News. So Huey Lewis and the News. I think that's cropped up that question before, actually, in a previous quiz. Einstein is the name of Doc Brown's dog. So it's Einstein, obviously named after Albert Einstein. Number 8 was 2 questions. What song does Marty McFly perform at the 1950s high school ball? It's Johnny Be Good, the rock and roll classic that was written and performed by rock and roll legend Chuck Berry. So it's Johnny Be Good, Chuck Berry, the performer, the poet of rock and roll, Hail, Hail, Rock and Roll. And 88 miles per hour is the speed it needs to reach to travel through time. So 88 miles per hour, 88 mph. And lastly, number 10, what movie is being advertised in Future 2015 Back to the Future Part 2? It's Jaws, but Jaws 19. Jaws 19. Thankfully, they didn't make any more Jaws after Jaws The Revenge with Mark Kine. It was a terrible impression. That was a god-awful film. It was Jaws 19. How did everyone fare with Back to the Future? Did you enjoy the round? It was a bit of nostalgia for you. It's a film we all seem to love from that kind of 1980s generation. What are your scores for your Back to the Future round? Had a bit of Huey Lewis in the News, Power of Love, Einstein the dog. Eric Stoltz was a tricky one. The actor who was replaced. 11 for Andy Rowell's, a good score. I think Andy's based here in Long Ashton. Gale, ultimate geek point. The dog, also called, how do you pronounce that? Copernicus. For Lucy Hawkins, Mr. Basart, a good score again with 10. And Gale did brilliantly, 12 out of 12. Big tick there. You've been squatting up on your Back to the Futures. Have you seen them recently during the lockdown? And imagine they've been on the TV. They seem to always be on Sky or Virgin Media, terrestrial TV. Kieran, 10. Good score. So what was the last round? The last round was monster films. 10 questions again. I'll reveal the answers. Just a sec. Yeah, so some good rounds on your Back to the Future. Let's try the monster films. Let's see how you got on with those. Monster movies. So Amanda Harris recommended, well, asked for this round. Hope Amanda's well. She normally takes part in the quiz. So, round 5. Question 1 was Nightbreed, the 1992 Clive Barker horror film. I'm going to try and get hold of this one. Arrow Films have done a nice Blu-ray release. I hear it's a good film. Like to see it. It's Nightbreed, answer number 1. The dude saying saw Back to the Future again last week. Yeah, we all love this film, don't we? The dude scored 11. Good score. I think this is the first time the dude's taken part. Thanks for taking part in the quiz. Hope to see you next week, of course. Number 2, the 1982 Wes Craven film, from the description, was The Swamp Thing, and they did a sequel, I think, called The Swamp Thing Returns. Swamp Thing, and there was a cartoon. I used to watch that back in the day. The Shane Black comedy horror from '87 was The Monster Squad. The Monster Squad. I need to watch that one again. I've got that on DVD. Steve McQueen, the iconic actor who's in the original 1958 film version of the horror film The Blob. So it's Steve McQueen, one of the great Hollywood icons, from The Cincinnati Kid, The Great Escape to Bullet. Did some great films. Thomas Crown Affair, of course. So the host was the answer to number 5, from Bong Joon-ho, who did Parasite, won the Oscar for Best Director, Best Film. So the host, the monster film he directed in 2006. Not seen this one. The commentator and wrestler from WWF, or WWE as it's called now, is Jesse Ventura from Predator, 1987. Jesse the Body Ventura, great sort of commentator on the WWF in the 80s and early 90s. He was kind of a bad guy commentator, a heel. So Society was the name of the 1989 horror film about a teenage boy who discovers his family are part of a gruesome orgy cult for the social elite. Society. Number 8, the actor from the 1931 Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde film. He plays Henry Jekyll and his alter ego, Mr. Edward Hyde. The actor was Frederick March. Number 9, the film was The Evil Dead from 1981, from the description, about releasing flesh-possessing demons. So it's The Evil Dead. I hear they're doing another one. Don't know if it's gone into production or pre-production. And lastly, question number 50, the final question of the night. It was The Thing, the 1982 film I described by John Carpenter, about a research team in Antarctica who were hunted by a changing alien that assumes the appearance of his victims. So The Thing is the last answer to the penultimate round of tonight, which was monster films. So tally up your scores. How well, did you know your monsters and your horror films? A mix of questions there, from black and white horrors of the 30s to kind of more present day. You had your monster squads, your things from John Carpenter. Lucy got a 4 for this one. Not so much her forte. So I have my cocktail of water, Red Bull and wine. I'll either be sleeping on the couch tonight or be wide awake. Andy Rowe's not so keen on this one. A 1. Really rubbish, he says. Gail didn't enjoy this round. She got a 3. And Lucy Hawkins declares a 31 for a total, saying another lovely evening. I was a little bit worried tonight because I don't normally drink when I do the quizzes, and I'd started a glass of wine and not eaten at all today. I've been terrible, and I thought, am I going to get through 50 questions tonight? A bit of a lightweight this evening. Kieran Nicholson, a 6 for this round. So not so good high scores for this one. For your monster movies. And if you tally up your scores from rounds 1 to 5, all 50 questions, how did you get on this week? As I said at the beginning, we're week number 15 during the government lockdown, as they're trying to loosen restrictions, trying to go back to normality, keep the economy ticking. Leisure places opening, pubs opening. Is it tomorrow on Saturday? Sensible time to open pubs, isn't it, on a Saturday? I'll say no more. 45. Gail saying, thanks for a super quiz. Appreciate that. She loved the Back to the Future and Tom Hanks rounds. Good score, Gail. Well done. 38. Good score from Kieran. Shirley Cormish. How about a Terminator or Michael Biehn round? Michael Biehn, that would be a tricky round. Terminator's a good suggestion. Okay, so we'll finish up in just a minute. I was going to say a couple of quick little things and leave you in peace, ready for the weekend ahead. Okay, so we've had a few suggestions in previous weeks for questions. Just digging out on my phone some previous recommendations. Okay, Kevin Spacey round for next week. Okay, I'll see what I can do. Very controversial actor. Hasn't made a film for some time. One I remember was a big flop after the accusations of what came out in the press and so on. He was also deleted from the Ridley Scott film, All the Money in the World, which was a question a couple of weeks ago on Ridley Scott. Some suggestions from Gail, Arnold Schwarzenegger films. Bomb we did a few weeks ago, but we could bring that back. Harrison Ford is a good suggestion, a box office superstar. Leonardo DiCaprio is a good suggestion. Mr. Basehart saying Arnie would be fun. Schwarzenegger. Leonardo DiCaprio, good suggestion. Akira Kurosawa, funny enough, I was going to mention that. One of the masters of world cinema, great filmmaker. Rashomon, Seven Samurai, Ran. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. The ones I've got listed from previous suggestions, I've got animal films featuring animals, well-known animals. That was Amanda Harris. The Nouvelle Vague, French New Wave. The Coen Brothers films. So they were some suggestions in the mix. Meryl Streep from Lucy Hawkins, good suggestion. And last week I mentioned, so I'm still furloughed from work. The cinema chain I work for, which is Showcase Cinemas, return on the 10th of July, but I've still been furloughed. They're not bringing back all the workforce quite yet. So I'm happy to continue the quiz for the usual slot on a Friday at 8:30. I did say we might do the last one, the penultimate one, next week. How's everyone feeling about continuing the quiz on a Friday night, same time, same place at 8:30? You happy with that? Or are you feeling like to do less, maybe one or two a month is better? Or do you want to still see the quiz in its usual slot on YouTube on a Friday? You happy with that? Be interested to see your thoughts and suggestions. Carry on with a weekly Friday night. Keep the quiz going on a Friday. I'm trying to get a co-host. I'm trying. I've approached a couple of people that are volunteers for the cinema, but not having a lot of joys. A socially distanced co-host. Keep the quiz going on a Friday. I'm good with a weekly right now. Yeah, 8:30 is good Friday. Julie Waters mentioned as a topic. Okay, so we've been going quite a long time, 1 hour, 45 minutes. Thanks for your time this evening. Thanks for taking part. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've got your suggestions on board for next week. How would a co-host work? Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, that is a good question. I'll have to think about that one. Continue on a Friday. Anyway, I'll love you and leave you for this week. Stay safe, of course. Keep watching great films. Hope you've enjoyed tonight. Enjoy the weekend, whatever you're getting up to. And I'll see you next week for the LA Cinema Film Quiz. And it will be week 16. So we'll finish up. Good night. And I'll see you next week. Thanks a lot. Take care. All the best.